Hello, Gutsy Women. Today we are back with another Gutsy Woman profile. Today we're going to speak to Laura Gariepy, and she is a financial writer and founder of everydaybythelake.com. Welcome, Laura. We're happy to have you here.
Thanks so much, Dr. Brenda. I'm excited to be on your show. I love the concept.
Well, I'd like to learn more about your background and just give the audience a bit of a overview of who you are, what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I quit my corporate job in 2018 because it just wasn't working for the way that I wanted to live my life. The 9 to 5 hours were getting in the way of attending to what was most important to me. And so without a clear plan, but with a few bucks in the bank, I just said, hey, I need to take some time to figure this out. And then a few months in, I started getting paid to write articles for personal finance websites. And it just kind of clicked. I said, hey, I can make some actual money doing this. And really, my business has just evolved from there.
So when you say
And it's been great.
you say the 9 to 5 has gotten in the way of what you want to do. So talk about, what is it? What do you want to do? I mean, what is that dream life that you're kind of chasing after?
Well, it's twofold, really. So the responsibility of having to be in the office got in the way of my responsibility to my family and to myself. Unfortunately, in late 2017, I lost my grandfather, and that was devastating. That I only had 3 days bereavement leave. It was a whirlwind because I live in Florida and he lives in Massachusetts. So I spent more time on a plane. Really, I mean, it felt that way anyway, more time on the plane than I did with my family. And so um, I vowed that I never wanted to go through that again. Like, I wanted to be present for myself and for my family today while we were all still here. And then I wanted to be able to respond to family crises um, in on a timeline that felt good. I didn't want to feel rushed. I wanted to support my family. I wanted to be supported by my family. And so having a flexible work schedule would enable me to do that. On the flip side, on like the more fun side, I want to take naps in the middle of the day during the week. I want to go see cheap movies. I want to shop when there's no crowds. I want to just take my laptop and go and work wherever I want to, whenever I want to. And so just having that flexibility has been everything.
Yeah, it's so what type of work did you do when you had the 9 to 5?
I was in human resources for 10 years and it was a great career. And, a lot of people quit their jobs because they hate their boss. And that wasn't the case for me. Like, I really liked my boss. I kind of felt bad that I was, leaving her in the lurch for a little while there, but it just had to be done.
It's so did you have the support of your family when you said, "Hey, I'm done. I'm going to go on my own. I don't have everything set up, but I'm just going to go out there."
Well, admittedly, there was a bit of skepticism, and I understandably a little bit here, but I definitely didn't do this recklessly. I did it kind of suddenly, but I had been making financial preparations. I have been interested in early retirement, and so I had stashed away a pretty nice egg, and I realized that I was still 10 to 15 years away from being able to ditch my job for good. How many more people were going to pass away, or how many more opportunities were going to pass me by, was in the aggressive pursuit of that, while in my corporate job. And so I said, hey, I'll sacrifice some financially right now so that I can reconfigure my life and then resume that pursuit of financial independence once this new phase is more settled. So to answer your question, there was a little bit of hesitation, but I think after some time and explanation, I got buy-in.
Okay, so yeah, so you went to college, right? And you kind of followed all the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you're like, no, these rules just are not working with my life. Because you sound very present oriented. I need to take
Exactly.
advantage of each day. Yeah. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't always like that.
So what switched over?
Um, I think just growing up, I think realizing that time is finite. When you're 9 years old, you don't think about these kind of things. Then you start to realize your own mortality and the mortality of those that you care about, and then you realize that there's some degree of there to get things done. And why are you going to wait for this arbitrary date or milestone to do the things that matter most to you?
So you're still in your 30s, so you've got quite a long ways to go. Are you able to, like, for me, the biggest challenge is accessing health insurance. Are, do you have things like that covered?
I do not. I self-insure right now. I know it's a tremendous gamble, but I'm fortunate. I don't have any major chronic illnesses, knock on wood. So, in the last couple of years when I have felt ill or I need a physical or something like that, I've just paid out of pocket for that. When I look at the expense of getting even like a bronze plan on the exchange, you're looking at a $6,000 to $7,000 deductible and a $300 or $400 a month premium. It's like, I don't think I'm going to spend over $15,000 a year on medical costs. So I'm taking a gamble and hoping that something catastrophic doesn't happen.
It
It's
is.
not it's not a risk that I
Yeah, it's difficult because I'm headed to Florida. I'll set up domicile. Florida does not have an based program for adults, and so I could be making $100 a month and still be expected to pay $700 premium, and the deductible is $7,500. So that's I've researched that myself, and that I think is, I'm going to say, it's the biggest deterrent for people leaving the workforce. It's everything is employer based, and when you look out there, even if you can afford the premiums, you really can't afford to visit because of that enormous deductible. So that's, I think, a big challenge
Yes,
for
it is a
people
big.
who are younger than retirement age. So,
I, I definitely agree. I've talked to a lot of people that. Sorry, I keep forgetting about this delay.
no, go ahead. Folks, we've got, I'm in the RV, Laura's in Florida, and we've got a delay here. So you're going to find the conversation a little still as we try to catch up to each other. So some technical issues, but you can see Laura and you can see me, so that's a good thing. So yeah, in terms of the barriers, I mean, it's the health insurance. Are there other things for younger people who want to go their own way, like you have? I mean, what other types of challenges are there?
I think it depends on their current lifestyle. But a big challenge for everyone is financial stability. So if you're working a 9 to 5, you're more than likely going to have to build your freelance business on the side. And that's difficult. Maintain a full-time job, building a business, and fulfilling all of your familial responsibilities. I know that not everyone is like me. I didn't have 18 months worth of living expenses readily accessible. I know that some people do, but most people do not. So they're going to have to figure out how to make that transition. So determining how much money they need to be making from their business before they make the leap, determining how much of a nest egg they need to have to support themselves during lean times. I think, figuring out what to do financially is on par with the health insurance piece. Um, those are the two biggest barriers that I've come across in my discussions with folks and in my market research.
Have you had to like change your lifestyle? I mean, we're all about making more, but also earning, spending less. And when you go through that period where you don't know what your income is going to be, I mean, did you take a big hit in terms of lifestyle?
I didn't. I knew that I had the resources available to me. I don't really live super ostentatiously to begin with. So I feel like I maintained my normal pretty well. And when I quit my full time job, I actually lined up a couple of remote part time gigs that I could do from home as I figured out what I wanted to do from a business perspective. So just having a few extra bucks come in the door really helped me preserve those savings and extend the time period I had to figure things out. So I feel very blessed that I didn't have to, live like a pauper during those months.
Were there times when you thought, "Oh God, Laura, what did you just do?" I mean, times of moments of regret where you're like, "Wow, I mean, I'm in this. I'm not sure about it."
I've felt anxiety, but I've never felt regret. And I still feel that anxiety from time to time where it's like, okay, it's taking a little longer for this new product to gain traction, or, you know, my month is a little lean because, a couple clients had to scale back because of the pandemic. What is that going to mean for me long term? So I do feel that, but I never regret leaving because I can always figure out another way to make money without going back to my cubicle.
That is, there's this theme there because I mean, I've left full time work and it's been a struggle to make money. It's like you got to do this marketing and get a little bit of luck, I think. So it's a lot of people are going to say, "Well, that's great for you, Laura, but like, how do I make money? I mean, how do I have that mindset where whatever's going to go on, I'm going to figure out how to manage in this economy, and I am going to figure out how to make money."
I think a lot of it starts with just belief. I know it sounds kind of woo woo and not rooted in anything particularly logical, but you have to go into it knowing you're going to be okay. You may not know exactly how, but you're going to figure things out. It's having that knowledge that you've got this. So I think you have to maintain that even when times are tough. And I think you also have to realize that creating a business online is a process. Very few people make huge money, right off the bat, or even within their first year. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like if you're offering a service, it's much easier to start making money with that sooner rather than later than, say, if you wanted to make money with advertising or affiliates on a website where it takes possibly a year or more to get enough traffic to make any kind of real income. So I think it's about having belief, but also being realistic and being patient.
Did you have role models, others in the family who maybe launched their own business?
Yeah, my dad did. He owned a business when I was young. I remember on weekends I would go with him. He had a power washing business, so I would go with him in his truck and help him wash cars and fleets of semi trucks and things like that. And he loved being his own boss. Yeah, unfortunately, in the mid 90s, things kind of unraveled for him and he wasn't able to hold on to the business. But just seeing him do that when I was young certainly made an impression, just seeing how happy he was being in charge of kind of his own financial destiny.
It's interesting because I think everything has changed in 2020, and people who thought their jobs were totally secure and they had a great income stream for the next 10 years, all of a sudden those jobs are gone. You've got people unemployed. You have people who have been living paycheck to paycheck and then the paycheck didn't arrive. And so in a way, we used to have, I think, this conception of the safe route was the 9 to 5 job. and now that doesn't feel very safe. It seems like we have to be more and more proactive to come up with ways to build our own income. I mean, have you felt that shift too?
I've seen it to a point. I do think that the majority of folks out there, despite what's happened, still feel like a traditional income is more stable because even though the job can go away, they can at least count on the income for the most part, unless you have extremely like variable hours. They can at least count on that income while they have the job. Where with having your own business, you can't guarantee either. Your clients can go poof or they could scale back. So you never really know month to month what you're going to bring in. Um, but I tell people that the upside of having your own business or being freelance is that you can have multiple clients. So if something happens with one or more of them, you still have something coming in and you're not, totally up the creek.
That's a good point. So, in terms of your lifestyle now, I mean, you talk about flexibility, and I mean, I worked from my house day after day, for like 18 months before I'm like, I can't stand being in the house all by myself. And you're so you're working from home. But what do you do? And so many people are have been working from home now, and they may be working at home for months or maybe permanently. And there's a lot to juggle, especially if you have kids, and now you have to help or possibly homeschool the kids. How do you manage sort of working from home and breaking up the day and making sure that you are still living that life that you dropped out of the 9 to 5 for?
That's a great question. And every now and again, I'll lose sight of that because you'll get engaged in what you're doing and maybe you're making a push to finish a project or you've got extra work that month or whatever. So I periodically have to take a step back and remind myself of why it is that I'm doing this. And when I feel myself not honoring that, I'll just take a day off. I don't care if it's the middle of the week. I try to just take days off based on the due dates that I have for my clients or meetings that I have scheduled. And if it looks like I don't have anything going on pressing that day, okay, fine. It's nothing special. I'll just take the day off and do whatever and leave my laptop closed. And that's kind of how I reset things.
That's that's very good advice. In fact, I have a nap scheduled for this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to it. So tell
Oh,
us,
that's delightful.
yes, tell us about Every Day by the Lake. How did you come up with this? What can people expect when they visit the site?
So, Every Day by the Lake is literal and metaphoric. I actually own a house on a lake in Florida. Um, and so I love the view. I think it's a perfect writer's backdrop. And it's also, it's corny, but it's like my happy place. And so Every Day by the Lake exists to help business owners save time through the providing of written content for their companies. That way they can spend more time at their happy place. So I'm Every Day by the Lake. I help business owners spend more time by whatever their lake happens to be. And I just thought it was kind of cute to have it be both visual and metaphoric.
I like it. I like it a lot, and I'm parked along the Atlantic Ocean, so the beach is right out my front door, basically, and it does being by the water just and yeah, the imagery is terrific. Um, so at the Gutsy Women Club, I kind of provide a roadmap, and it's as basic as you can get. It's about dreaming, it's about planning, it's about saving, and then it's about doing. So, people can go from dreaming to doing, but sometimes we do that when we're younger, and often face consequences. To me, the biggest challenge is people can dream, maybe they can plan and maybe get to that saving point, but then it's handing in the resignation to the employer, or it's getting on that plane to go to Europe. It is the doing part where people get hung up, and it's like, this is scary. I don't know that I can do this. What kind of advice do you have to sort of get women over that? I think it's a lot of it is a mental block that says, you know, I, I'm scared. I don't know that I can do this.
I think you just have to remember that you're never going to feel ready, and you just need to push yourself to make the leap. Because what would you rather feel at the end of the day? Um, regret, or maybe a little bit of butterflies in your stomach. It's like, I know that I would much rather face the fear of some of those unknowns than go to my deathbed wishing that I had done those things. Um, it's really about saying, okay, I'm prepared enough, and just doing it.
I would like you to talk about your dreams. So you're in your 30s, you're very young, and put yourself into your 40s and 50s, and what does Laura of the future, what does that look like to you?
Geez, Laura the future doesn't have any debt. she she probably has some sort of alternative living arrangement, maybe an RV. Not sure if that's 100% full time. I don't know when, if ever, I'd want to completely get rid of a house. Maybe, I don't know. Um, I do want to stop working, at some point, at least having to work. I don't want to have to do it for remuneration to pay my bills. So, within the next 20 years, I'd like to come to a point where I can live off of investments and savings and just provide services because I want to, if the mood strikes.
Hmm.
Um, I see myself doing a lot of slow travel. Um, I'm a big fan of putting in the work when you need to put in the work, but I'm also a big fan of leisure too. And so I would like to see just a lot of un, unregulated, unscheduled time to just do what I want to do.
So do you have any hobbies? I mean, when you talk about leisure, what do you see yourself doing?
I like to read. I like to travel. There are some hobbies of yesteryear that I'd like to pick up again. I used to paint. I used to play trumpet. So I see those things coming back.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, for me, because I have the flexibility and I brought some things with me. Like I have a wood carving kit. I haven't had time to do anything. So it's been interesting because you move into that your flexible schedule. You're still working and you're still doing everything, and it still seems like time flies. That you still can't build in, go back to the painting. I don't know what happens with that. It seems you have to intentionally carve out an hour a day where you say, "I'm going to paint."
Yes, and then honor that. I've put things on my calendar before, and I've ignored them in favor of whatever else. So I think it has to be some self-discipline there, even with doing leisure. I think we all suffer from inertia to a point. Like, once we're up and rolling, things go very well for us, but kind of hitting that starting button can be difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting too because like the Gutsy Women Club is really about change, and it's about starting with a point for many women where there's just this general level of discomfort. It's maybe they can't even point to it, but it's the change has to come from within. I mean, have you, when you think about like your transition from the 9 to 5 to now, I mean, what sorts of changes have you had to make? It might be internal changes or just changes you've had to make with maybe the way you've approached things.
Well, I definitely had to have become more of a self-starter. So no one is handing me stuff to do. I mean, my clients will assign me things, but if I didn't go out and put myself out there, I wouldn't have the clients. Whereas if I had gone to my desk at my job, my boss would have sent me an email to do X, Y, and Z, and I would have done it. And it would have been kind of just handed to me. So the idea of having to go and bring the business to me has been new. Like, I expected that. I knew that's what I'm going to have to do, but you never really understand what that entails until you're required to do it. Um, and so I think just kind of managing myself and my time has been a big shift for me.
Have you, I mean, one of the things I've experienced is that I work with a business coach because my background is not in business. And she pushes me so far out of my comfort zone. And so I don't know if you've had that experience where, I mean, especially for people who are more introverted, and now they've got to go out and try to market themselves or market their products. So, can you talk a little bit about like maybe taking those steps outside of your comfort zone and, what that was like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a business coach as well. I believe very strongly in finding a mentor or a coach. If you find people that are further along in their journey than you are, that's an invaluable resource. You can save yourself so much time in terms of, wading through different options and maybe avoiding pitfalls and things like that that you wouldn't have been able to see on your own. Um, I'm sorry, I know you asked a specific
It,
question
it was stepping,
about, oh yeah, your comfort zone.
yes. So, your
Um,
experience stepping,
so
yeah,
I think it's just,
go ahead.
I, I think it's just forcing yourself to do it. It's like getting on the plane to go to Europe. You're never going to feel ready to do it, but you do it anyway because that's the required step towards making progress. The price you pay for not stepping out of your comfort zone is stagnation. And you can't be stagnant as a business owner. You need to keep evolving. Otherwise, your business dies. So, for me, up until very recently, I've been averse to being on camera. I don't like it, but I'm forcing myself to do it because that's the medium that people are seeking. I mean, I think people still read blogs and obviously listen to podcasts, but a lot of folks gravitate towards video. So if your messaging isn't out there um, on that medium, you're missing a segment of prospects and people that you can help. So um, it's just about forcing yourself to take those risks because the benefit will most certainly outweigh your anxiety.
That is exactly where I have been too. I'm like, I don't need to do video. And the business coach is like, yo, yes, you do. um, and that, um,
Yeah.
you know, and for women too, I think a large part of it, is it's still, we are held to different standards. So when I'm on video, people are looking at, well, she's got a chin and, her hair is a mess and she just doesn't have any makeup on. And so you know that there are always going to be haters out there. And you have to kind of like develop this thick skin because it's like, most people are going to appreciate you for who you are, but there's always going to be people who critique you because you don't live up to their standard of what a woman should look like or do. So, I mean, do you have those feelings as well sometimes?
I've never really tied it into um, gender specifically. It's just I've never liked how I appeared in photos. And I know that, I have like awkward facial tics sometimes, when I speak. So it's like I'm self conscious about that. Fortunately, I haven't had anyone say anything too nasty to me online. Not yet. I suppose. I suppose when I do, I'll know that I've made it. Right.
That's what they say. Yes, it's like, oh, you're not well. You've become popular. So yeah, and I do think that people want the honesty. That's what we're. I think in this day and age too, that's what we're looking for. So the difficult part for me too has been showing that vulnerability. I don't know if that's part of what your coach talks to you about it. We have. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think being vulnerable is difficult because you think that your prospects only want to work with someone who's strong, who has it all together. And I think there's some legitimacy to that because you do have to demonstrate fortitude and competence to a point. But they also want to know that you're real, that you've experienced what they've experienced. And because you have, and because you understand, you're more apt to empathize with them and help them work through those feelings themselves.
Yeah, you mentioned something a while back, and this word, has stuck in my head now: stagnation. Because you talked about, businesses stagnating and the ability to change, but I think as people, um, there's the same danger of stagnation. To me, everything around us changes. There's some things we can control, some things we can't. But from a personal level, it seems that stagnation happens or we get complacent. And maybe that is some source of the discontent that we see.
I think you're right. I think people have to feel uncomfortable enough sometimes to make a change. Like the pain of staying where they are has to be greater than their fear of making some sort of transition. Um, I do know that there are folks out there that are happy to coast and happy just be, and that's fine. Um, I guess they're more of like your type Bs, but I definitely feel more of a type A where I need to keep evolving. I can't sit still. Once I've achieved one goal, I need to figure out my next move. Um, but sometimes, you do feel hesitation, and you have to basically wait until the pain of staying where you are forces you to make the change.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no right time, but there are certain times where, um, it feels good to just stay in one place and have that routine. And then there are other times when it does feel good to travel and mix things up. I am, I keep looking over your shoulder like, I wish I could see your view of the lake there. Um,
Oh,
so,
it's off to my right.
okay. So if people want to contact you, what kinds of services could you help them with? And is the best way to contact you through Everyday by the Lake?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to give my business email address. So if you'd like to drop me a line, I'm at lauraeverydaybythelake.com. You can also find me on Twitter at everydaylake. And I'm super active on LinkedIn as well. So you can just find me by searching my full name, Laura Gariepy. I do offer a couple of different services. So I provide written content creation services to other businesses so that they can spend more time on growing their enterprise and doing the things that matter to them. And so I do that through various packages and also a la carte if they have different needs. And then the other arm of the business that I'm cultivating is called Before You Go Freelance. I'm actually in the midst of having a website built for that. And it's essentially an educational resource and repository of digital products for aspiring and new freelancers to help support them in their journey. So that will be like coaching and an online course and a community. Some of those things are still to be built, but they're coming soon.
That's a really great concept. And do you have any last words of advice for women out there who sort of want to do what you've done, or they want to take that step toward realizing the life that they want to live, but they haven't yet?
You just have to take a deep breath and step forward. Every day, maybe take an action that gets you an inch closer. If you don't feel safe just jumping off of the cliff, inch closer and closer and closer to it. And when you finally get to the edge, just force yourself to step off. You can't waste time because we don't know how much time we have. Statistically, I can say, oh, I have another 3 or 4 songs ahead of me, but I don't know that. Something could happen next week, and I want to live in a way where I have few regrets, no matter what age I go.
Well, thank you very much, Laura. It has been a pleasure having you with us. And that's it for today. And next week we will feature yet another Gutsy Woman profile. So go out there, have a good day, and so long.